Guy Tony Wiggins here with another edition of Locked On Jaguars on a Thursday. This is a coach-centric team now. And if it's a coach-centric team, that means it's a player-centered team. I'll tell you why Urban Meyer's strategy is going to pay off and compare it a little bit to the way it used to be here on Locked On Jaguars.
You are Locked On Jags, your daily Jacksonville Jaguars podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's going on a Thursday, man? What is happening with you guys? I'm your guy, Tony Wiggins, here with Locked On Jaguars on a Thursday. And I got to let you know today's show is brought to you by Run Your Pool. Check them out today and get $10 off at runyourpool.com/lockedon or use our promo code locked on at checkout. Got a good show for you today. And sometimes you get these shows organically and sometimes you get them because the journalistic gods from around the country gave you an idea. And today that journalistic god is Jenna Laine from ESPN Tampa. And she wrote an interesting article about Leonard Fournette. Now, I know we're trying to look towards the future. So what I'm not going to do is take you down this path or this brook, if you will, of stuff that happened in the past that wasn't good. So we won't do that. But we will talk about the future and show you why that it's different now and why I think it's a good idea for Urban Meyer to be a little bit different, and to be a lot different, actually, and how those little things affect winning overall. You know, sometimes we think it's just about the players on the field. It's not. So that's what we're going to hit. But in segment 2, I'm going to point out some of the things that Urban has tried to do and even include the fans in it. And then in segment 3, I'm going to show you an overall picture of how and why I think it's important for him to do that, and why having a coach-centric team is having a player-centered team and how it goes hand in hand. And I'm going to show you who actually gets kind of left behind in all of that, okay? So let's get to it. Jenna Laine wrote an article in ESPN about Leonard Fournette. I'm going to read some quotes, so bear with me when I read some quotes and where my eyes happen to go when I read those quotes. However, there was some enlightening stuff. So a lot of the times in the past, and you guys have known this, it may have seemed like I was biased towards certain guys. I've been accused of that, right? Biased towards certain guys like Jalen Ramsey, biased towards guys like Leonard Fournette. And I even had a couple of people go, well, you're buddies with all the players. I'm not. First of all, I'm 52, so I'm not buddies with a 28-year-old. I do have people, family members, as well as other people that have come in contact and been close to some of the guys on the team in the past. And it's because they just kind of hung in the same circles and had some of the same interests. And so I would know guys probably on a more personal level than many other people would. And they would either call me OG playfully or call me Sir or Mr. Wiggins. So it's not like those guys. And then when they would bump into me doing my job in the media with a press credential, they'd always make sure that they come over and at least acknowledge and speak to me. So it's never really been, and this is all, I'm giving you a preface, and what I'm trying to do is kind of set the table for you here. It's never really been that I was close to them. However, when you hear colleagues or you hear people say stuff about those kids, and I call them kids because they're the same age as my kids, but really they're grown men. I did have a hard time separating the age of those people from the age of my own children. Even the guys that don't hang around my kids or friends. Like, for instance, I know a lot of guys that's between the ages of 24 and 29 that made it to the NFL that are from Jacksonville, and they interact with people. And, you still think of them as a certain way. Well, I never call guys names like POSs, and I never wanted to be that guy who thought that these guys were all of these bad people, because to me, you could very well say that about my kid, okay? And I realized that a professional athlete has a different viewpoint and perspective and he's viewed a different way than somebody who's just out here working an everyday job. Well, for a guy like me, it's hard to separate the two because football players and athletes, to me, are human. And I've never been a starstruck person. And I've never been one to look at them other than guys who are really, really good at what they do, who've been training their whole life to do it. But I've seen enough of it on the human side that I realize they're just regular people. I used to be bothered and disturbed a little bit about some things in the past. Now, when I took up for Jalen Ramsey, there are lots of people that said, well, you're only doing it because he went to Florida State and that's the school that you like. And I told folks, anybody who knows me knows that I don't care about that. I don't care about where Fred Taylor's like my favorite Jaguar of all time, and he went to Florida. And then this offseason, I defended just a few weeks back C.J. Henderson, and he went to Florida. And people got on me about that. So one of my things is, where's the bias in that? If I don't criticize or I take up for C.J. Henderson, where's the bias in that? Well, in this article, Jenna Laine talked to Leonard Fournette about his come up as being a Super Bowl champion in Tampa. And some of this stuff was, all of it was honest, but some of it showed you that Leonard had some growing up to do. And when he was here, a lot of the stuff he brought on himself. But you always have to ask why, right? Why did it happen? Was it just because he was young? Was it just because he was arrogant? Was it just because this is a small city, small town? No. I always ask the why. I think why is because it was a losing culture. Everybody that left here isn't a jacked up individual. And if you think everybody who left here was a jacked up individual, then you had to think that everyone who was drafted here who left here was a jacked up individual when they were drafted. And then you have to point at the people who did the vetting and say, y'all drafted a bunch of jacked up people. But most of the time, folks won't do that because it now causes you to do some self-evaluation, because they say if you are drawn and attracted to trash and you hang around trash and that makes you trash, well, nobody's going to call themselves trash. So they always have to have this point where they stop everything and cut it off before it reaches them. And I get it. Well, in this article, you saw things differently. What does that have to do with the Jaguars today? Urban Meyer will not say one thing negative in the press about his current players. Urban Meyer is not going to give you any indication or information about said player being a bad person or a bad individual. Urban Meyer actually wants this to be a player-friendly place because he realized that the players, not the owners, not the coaches to a certain extent, but not the people who sit up in the press box, not any of us makes the ultimate thing happen that's going to make the fans happy and make this team a winner. Not one thing that I say on the podcast or one thing that I write is going to have any effect on whether they win or lose football games. So while we can always make it about us and we can make ourselves a part of the story, the thing is if y'all want to win football games, you're going to need the players. You're going to need the players to do it. I ain't seen one journalist run a touchdown. I haven't seen one front office executive make a tackle. The players are the resource. That's it. They're the reason. And the fans are the reason. So you want to make the fans happy? Then you have to make this a good place for the players to play. I secretly asked somebody, I said, I bet it's different around here with Urban and Tom Coughlin. It was like, not really, unless you're a player or a coach. That's who's building it. It's their building. If you're back office dude or operations guy, you're just back office dude or operations guy, just like you were under Tom Coughlin. This is all about building up the players and all about building up the coaches. And in the past, too many times, coaches, especially losing coaches, would, in the interest of self-preservation, when there's so much losing, maybe form like a little alliance with the fans and blame the players. I don't doubt that for 1 minute. self-preservation wise, and maybe it probably wasn't on purpose, and it probably wasn't consciously done. But obviously, if things aren't going the way they're supposed to go, and you're one of the people that's responsible for making it go that way, the hardest thing to do is say, it was me. I remember the day standing over there and you asking questions and say, I don't know, I wish somebody would come answer that question. I'm going to finish up a little bit of this and get into it and bridge this towards what we have here now and why I think it should be appreciated. That even if it means that some people are kind of pushed to the back burner or cut off, that it's not a bad thing. This ain't about us. It's about the product, and it's about the people that buy the tickets. That's why I'm here for you every day here on Locked On Jaguars, because I really, truly believe that. I'll get right back to it in just a second. I got to tell you about Run Your Pool. Football season is back, and let's make the most of it with a better way to create your custom pool at runyourpool.com, the premier sports pool hosting service. Run Your Pool makes it ridiculously easy to run a football pool with friends, family, and office mates. They offer dozens of formats, including Survivor, Pick'em, Squares, Margin, Confidence Pool, 33, and more. Run Your Pool hosts formats for NFL and college football with 1 week games, full season, playoffs, or Super Bowls. Unlike other fantasy sports platforms, Run Your Pool has options and settings to make it your own. You can even brand your pool for your local business, bar, or restaurant. Reconnect with friends and join nearly 2 million football fans to make every game action-packed this season. Check them out today and get $10 off at runyourpool.com/lockedon, or use your promo code LOCKEDON at checkout. Anywhere, everywhere in the world, Run Your Pool helps friends and colleagues compete. Friends and colleagues, that's what it is. The NFL starts on the 9th of this month, September. Start today at runyourpool.com/lockedon and have your pool up and running in minutes. Runyourpool.com/lockedon. That sounds like a lot of fun, man. That sounds like a lot of fun. Make sure you check out runyourpool.com/lockedon. Back to this business that I'm discussing today. What's the significance of what somebody who left here said? And the thing is if it's one person, it's not a big significance. But if it's multiple people, then at some point you had to look at what went wrong here. And I would only suspect this, and I'm only suspecting this because of trying to read between the lines a little bit and trying to understand why Urban Meyer was so adamant that this is going to be a destination place and we want people to come here. And this is a great town. I think there was a little bit of feeling amongst NFL people that this is a place you didn't want to be if you were a player, because of fines and because of losing and a lot of information leaking out about people's personal feelings about players. And I used to always balk at that. And the thing is it's okay to get information out about guys, but when you're giving out the information, it kind of makes you as an organization look dysfunctional. And if you work for the organization and you're putting out this information, you are dysfunctional. The Jaguars, whether you guys want to believe it or not, and I know most of you do, have been a dysfunctional team for most of the last decade. Urban wants to change that. And he wants to change it by changing things for the number one priority for any football organization, and that's football players. And that's how you change the perception. Leonard Fournette had 1,800 yards the season before he was cut. The year he was featured to get those 1,800 yards, the head coach, Doug Marrone, said he's our best player. He's our best player. He's our most talented player. He didn't say he's the guy who we drafted high, so we got to force feed him the ball. He said he's our best player. He's our most talented player. How do you go from saying he's our best player, he's our most talented player, to now cutting him the next year and saying you couldn't get any value for him? Former running backs coach Terry Robisky just thought that it was ridiculous to think that they couldn't have gotten something for Fournette. They just wanted to cut him. He seems to think that some of the things that happened to Leonard brought on himself, but some of the other things that were leaked out and said about Leonard were not true. In fact, he said it was far from the truth. Some of the things that you've heard about Fournette in the past, and I'll read them, the quote. What types of things were being said that Robisky thought were not true? One, that he's late for team bus, he's late coming to meetings, he sleeps in the meetings, or he's been arrested all of these times. He was arrested once, and it was for unpaid tickets. Or he's right on the verge of getting kicked out of the league, and they've got so much stuff on him that he's a bad guy and he's bad in the locker room. He doesn't work in practice. And I can say that's about as far-fetched a statement that you'll ever hear. That's just from his running back coach, Terry Robisky, who was here for, I believe, one season, maybe two. And I can tell you, I used to go to practice, and Fournette was a hard worker. He worked just as hard as anybody else. I can't tell you about the meetings and all that, but here's a position coach saying that it wasn't true. So what if it's just one person that has a problem with you? Here's what's going to happen now. If that one person has a problem with you and this stuff is leaked out, Urban Meyer will put that to bed quickly. That keeps the morale good. Urban Meyer will probably fire a guy if he, in fact, anybody that works for Urban Meyer probably isn't even going to sit here and have the gumption or the stones to say anything like that to any member of the media, because they'll probably fear for their jobs. Because when you have a coach-centric team, it becomes a player-centric team, because there's nothing that coaches love more than their players. If coaches in the NFL could have 100 guys on their team, they do it. They cut guys that they absolutely love. They think they need all of them. You feel me? Coaches need players like Rambo needs bullets. He wants as many of them as he can get. So why is it important? One, it's important for morale. You see what, just this offseason, what the deal with C.J. Henderson. That could have been handled a totally different way. You've seen it with Taven Bryan. But the C.J. Henderson situation could have been handled totally different. And I think the C.J. Henderson situation, according to people in the media, one of the outgoing coaches said, watch out for him on and off the field. He's a bad dude, basically. And I'll paraphrase that because I think that's what somebody said. I know people that know C.J. Henderson that will tell you he is not a bad guy. He's just a little introverted. See, when you talk about a guy's character, it's not because he's different. Like, he don't have bad character because he's different. When you mention the word character, you're talking about him just being a despicable human being. And I don't think that that's ever the case with these guys. So some of these words get twisted, and they need a little straightening. Urban Meyer is going to give you a little straightening with your team. So from a fan's perspective, what does that have to do with you? Let me tell you what that has to do with you. The more likely that a player feels comfortable, the more likely that a player feels protected, the more likely that he feels that his coach has his back, the more likely he's going to play better. And the more likely he's going to want to stay in that organization, the more likely he's willing to run through a brick wall for that coach. And if he does all of that, that means you have a better chance of winning games and building continuity, because your coach and your player trust each other. If they win more games, guess who makes, I mean, it's like a Christmas present to fans, right? When they start winning more games, guess who gets blessed? You do. So really this thing where in the past, fans would automatically take the side of management, but fans also think management is terrible. Fans were happy that entire staff and the entire front office, for the most part, were let go because you needed a reboot, you needed a restart. But while it was going on, most of the fans stood by management, and most of the fans stood by the front office against the players. There's a dynamic at play here that always used to get on my nerves, but now it doesn't anymore, because I just understand that people are used to doing what they're used to doing. If a player who plays for the organization every day thinks the coaching and the front office is trash, and the fans know in their heart of hearts that the coaches and the front office is trash because you call for them to be fired, why do you get angry at the player for saying it? You get mad at the player for saying exactly what you say in private. And by the same token, you take and run and believe like you're the Jamaican 4x100. You take the baton and run with every single thing you hear someone in management says about a player. Is it because you didn't make it to the NFL and you have to do your job every day? I'm not mad that I didn't make it to the NFL and I got to do my job every day. It just wasn't in the cards for me. So I always wonder why folks are willing, and some people think they know the answer, why they're willing to take management's word about players, then realize management is trash also, and never even backtrack and go, well, that dude was right. Yeah, you know what? I would think the guy that's hurt more about bad management and bad coaching is the guy who actually has to play for him every single day. So I'm not saying that it's bad on fans and it's bad on you. What I'm saying is you don't even have to change. But what I'm talking about is Urban Meyer's policies, and this is what we're going to talk about in segment 3. His policies and his willingness to make this about the players will benefit you. Because if he can extract and get more out of those guys, then what that means is it ultimately is going to be what makes you happy. Not this podcast or what somebody writes about somebody. What's going to make you happy is if they can win games. I'm going to talk more about it in just a second here on Locked On Jaguars in segment 3 on the Thursday. It's that time of year again, and all eyes are now turning to football as teams are back on the gridiron to start the football season. Also, always Bet Online is where it's supposed to be, man. It's at the number 1 spot for all the pro and college football action this season. Get all the updated odds, promos, props, contests, including the online's biggest $500,000 NFL contest and the world's largest $200,000 NFL Survivor contest. And it's open now at Bet Online. Head to the website to use your mobile device to sign up today and receive your 100% welcome bonus. Be sure to take advantage of their opening day super promo. That means you make a bet on September 9th. The Cowboys play the Bucs. And if you lose, your wager will be refunded up to $25 for new customers only when signing up and using the promo code NFL100. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet all your favorite sports, from football, basketball, boxing, right to your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait and take advantage of all the great offers. BetOnline is your online sportsbook experts. Make sure to take advantage of the sign-up bonus. You use the promo code LOCKEDON. I want to hit you guys up and talk about